What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got another swatch review for you. Today we're talking about the Scream Nails Sweethearts collection that came out for February 2023. If you haven't heard of Scream Nails before, they are an independent nail polish brand that is based in Australia, but they are available internationally, and all of their polishes are 10 free, meaning they are free of 10 of the potentially harmful ingredients that can be found in nail polish. They are vegan, meaning they do not use any animal-derived ingredients. They're cruelty-free, meaning they do not test their products on animals, and they're also plant-based. So we've got 8 new polishes to go over. They're all these really gorgeous shimmers, and we've got a pretty nice range of colors from more softer pastel kind of shades into the brighter, almost neon colors. And let me tell you, the color story of this collection is stunning. This is the exact type of color scheme that I love to see for spring because I feel like it hits those pastel-y kind of boxes, but there's shimmers to make it a little bit more interesting. And then we also have these really intense bright shades, but I have some thoughts on the formulas. So let me show you the swatches first, then we'll talk a little bit more about pricing, availability, and my thoughts on the collection as a whole. So roll the swatch footage. So as with all of my swatch and review videos, I am using base coat underneath all of my swatches just to protect my natural nail and prevent any stains. Today I'm using the Orly Bonder base coat. So we'll start off with the shade that I was the most excited about in this collection. It's called Kiss Me, and it sits somewhere between being a blue and a purple base, and then within that base we have a really intense iridescent shimmer that shifts depending on the angle you're looking at it. So head on it looks mostly orangey, pinky, coppery kind of color, and then around the edges you see a lot more yellow into green, and at extreme angles you even see a touch of blue. And oh my gosh, what a stunning color, what a stunning combination with that iridescent shimmer, and it gave me perfect coverage in 2 coats. It's so vibrant and eye-catching. I just really enjoyed this one. Next up we have the shade Sweet Pea, which I want to describe as a Tiffany blue. It's that really light turquoisey kind of color, and again we have an iridescent shimmer in here, and this one head on actually looks like an intense turquoise shimmery color, but around the edges you can see a little bit more of like a pinky tone, but it's very subtle. So again, really loved this color. I loved the vibrance of it, but at this point I started to notice that these polishes weren't as self-leveling. So here's what it looks like in 2 coats, which honestly in person I feel like would have been fine, but looking at it super close on camera I feel like there was just a touch of patchiness. So I ended up putting on a 3rd coat, and that made the patchiness go away. But honestly, in real life I would just wear this one in 2 coats. I don't think anybody is looking at my nails as closely as this video is, so I'm being a little bit more forgiving with this one. Next up we have the shade Love You, and this one I would describe as a very light, cool toned lavender pastel base. Again, we do have an iridescent shimmer in there, and looking at it head on it looks like a really intense fuchsia color, but around the edges you can see just a touch of like a more bluish purple in there. But again, it is very subtle, and this again didn't have as much of that self-leveling property as I tend to like with my polishes. So again, I feel like I could have gotten away with 2 coats if I was more careful with application, but because I wasn't, I ended up needing a 3rd coat. So after this point I realized I do need to be a little bit more careful when I'm applying them, and I do need to make sure that I level out the polish on my nails myself, because it's not going to happen as the polish dries. So something to keep in mind, the majority of these polishes were not self-leveling, so I would say that makes them slightly less beginner friendly. Next up we have the shade BFF, which is another light purple shade, but this one is definitely on the warmer side, and I noticed that this formula was a little bit easier to work with. It was more similar to that first blurple kind of color Kiss Me, so I felt like I was going to have a lot easier of a time with this, and I did. I ended up getting full coverage in 2 coats, and I thought that that actually looked perfect. There was also a little speck in my nail, so you can see me trying to get that out, but it ended up being totally fine, and 2 coats gave me perfect coverage. Again, we have a nice iridescent shimmer in here that looks like an intense fuchsia head on, but it softens up a little bit and almost looks a little blue around the edges, but it just gives like a nice extra special sparkle to the polish, and I think it's really gorgeous. So at this point I kind of figured that the lighter, more pastel kind of shades were the difficult formulas, and the brighter, more more neon darker colors were going to be the easier formulas. So I moved on to this next shade, So Cute, which I would describe as an almost neon pink, and we have a really intense iridescent shimmer in here. I think it's actually the most intense in this polish out of all of the shades in the collection, and it looks mostly like a cool toned blue, but it does shift into sort of an icy silver shimmer. I thought that this was going to be one of the easier formulas since it is a deeper shade, and after 2 coats I realized that this was just super sheer. It didn't have the same issue of self-leveling as the lighter pastel-y kind of shades did, but it still was a little bit too sheer to wear in 2 coats, and it was a little bit too patchy to wear as an intentionally sheer polish, so I ended up putting on a 3rd coat. Didn't love that, but I do think that the color is still really pretty. Moving on, we have the shade You're Hot, and this one is a gorgeous, pretty much neon coral base color that has a gold iridescent shimmer running throughout, and this one actually ended up being my 2nd favorite of the collection after Kiss Me because the color is just so vibrant. I love seeing this coral shade paired with gold. I think it's so pretty, but this shimmer in here isn't just regular gold. It does have that iridescent sparkle to it, so you can actually see like a little bit more color around the edges. It almost looks like a silvery shade, and again, we had a really nice easy formula here, so it did give me full coverage in 2 coats, and I don't know, it just screams summer to me and it feels like a really fun shade. Next we have the shade XOXO, and this one is a super light pale pink that leans a little bit into that blush peachy territory, so it feels like a very light neutral, almost nude kind of shade with a little bit of that pinky vibe to it. And again, I just struggled with the formula here. You could see in that 1st coat it was just a little bit thick to work with, and whenever I refer to a polish as chalky, this is what I'm talking about, where it almost feels like it's too thick and dry to move around the nail, and that was what I experienced with this one. I would say with the formulas, this one was definitely the chalkiest, and even after 3 coats it was just pretty difficult to move around on my nails, so it still ended up not being very self-leveling and it didn't look perfect, so I didn't love that. I do love the iridescent shimmer in here though. It's very hard to see on camera, but it's a very subtle, like almost silvery iridescent sparkle in there. And the last shade in the collection, and honestly possibly least favorite shade of the collection, this one is called Text Me, and it is a super pale yellow base. Again, we have that iridescent shimmer in there, but this one is incredibly subtle as well. I did notice that throughout the collection the amount of iridescence in each polish really varied a lot, so some of them were a lot more sparkly and others almost looked like they were fully a cream finish, but they just had just a touch of iridescent sparkle in there. This is one of the ones that really just has a touch of it, and it just looks like an almost silvery glass fleck kind of vibe, and this formula was just super sheer. Now that is something that I've come to expect with yellows, especially when we're talking about super light yellows like this. I find that yellow polish is as sheer and difficult to get opaque as white nail polish, if not worse. So after 3 coats it was almost there, but I just felt like I didn't get the right amount of coverage. I could just see a little bit of patchiness through it, so I ended up doing a 4th coat, but by then I feel like I was just still seeing it, especially around my cuticle area, so I did not love that. I just feel like I'm never gonna reach full opacity with this one. Maybe if I wore it over a white base, but honestly I just don't love doing that, so this polish probably not for me. So here are all of the polishes together, and I have to say, despite my misgivings about some of the formulas here, I think this color story is absolute perfection. I love the range of colors here. I love that we have some brights, we have some pastels, and I love the theme of the iridescent shimmer throughout all of them, but the formulas I definitely struggled with a little bit more. I feel like a lot of these gave me a little bit more trouble than I would expect from a polish, and I do happen to love the Ice Cream Nails formula, but I find that their formulas can be more on the intermediate side and a little bit harder to work with, so you have to be very careful and precise with your application, and I found that to be the case with a lot of these. But the easiest application I would say were the blurple shade Kiss Me, the coral shade You're Hot, and the cooler toned purple BFF. I think that those ones were the most normal as far as formulas go. They were a little bit more self-leveling and they were easier to get full coverage without patchiness, but the others I found to just be a little bit more difficult. So those are the polishes, and like I said, honestly the colors are absolutely stunning. I love the shimmer shimmers. I love the base colors. I think they did a really good job curating this color story. As far as the formulas, I feel like they are pretty much hit or miss. That being said, I'm definitely going to still wear them just because I feel like what makes them kind of a miss is that they're more of an intermediate formula. They're not self-leveling, so you do have to be careful with application. So I wouldn't say that a lot of these are very beginner friendly, but I have a lot of experience painting my nails and I can be very careful with application. And also, if you have any small mistakes, top coat is going to smooth it out. So I'm kind of justifying it because I think the colors are really pretty, but if you don't have the patience or time to be really careful with your manicure, then some of these polishes might not be right for you. But like I said, I just think the colors are really pretty and I love those shimmers, and I feel like this is the type of pastel-y kind of color that I can get behind. So yeah, I'm gonna be wearing most of them anyway. So these polishes are available from the Ice Cream Nails website. They come in 10 milliliter bottles and they do have ice cream cone shaped caps. Don't worry, application still feels the same. It might take one nail to get used to the way that the ice cream cone feels, but it isn't any more difficult than any regular nail polish in terms of the brush. They do have a nice medium wide flat brush. It has a straight edge to it, and they retail for $13.50 USD on the Ice Cream Nails website. I also have a discount code. You can use the code KELLI20 to get 20% off your order there. So I'll link all of that down in the description. You can check that out if you're interested, but I'm curious to hear what you think of these polishes. What do you think of the colors and finish? What do you think of these formulas? Do you think it is worth having a little bit more of an intermediate slash potentially difficult formula for these colors? Leave it all in the comments. We can chat about it. If you enjoy my swatch and review videos, please give this one a thumbs up. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. I also have a podcast that's not nail polish related. It's movie related, but we just started posting it on YouTube, so I will link it up in the cards. It's called It's All Geek to Me. We're currently watching Star Wars. It's my first time watching the Star Wars franchise, and it's pretty funny. So, I mean, I think it's funny because I'm making it, but I don't know. Other people think it's funny too. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. And of course, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer, Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals, Rocket Man's daughter, Paula, Ken, Rosie, and Courtney. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Megan, and Megan wants to know, is there anything you like to do for Valentine's Day? I feel like this is a potentially controversial question because people have very polarizing thoughts on Valentine's Day. I feel like not many people are indifferent to it. People either absolutely love it or absolutely despise it. I feel like I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, leaning towards love. I totally understand that it is a very commercial holiday, but that being said, I just think it's fun to celebrate things. I think it's fun to kind of have an excuse to do something special. And I feel like a lot of people who don't like it are like, I don't need an occasion to do something nice or tell my significant other that I love them. And I feel that way too. I don't need a special occasion, but sometimes it's nice to have a theme to your love. You know what I mean? So I do enjoy that aspect of it. I am not a person who likes to go out on Valentine's Day because places will just double their prices and put it on a menu with a heart on it and be like, special Valentine's Day menu. So I think that's super annoying. So generally, historically, with Valentine's Day, we'll usually just give each other small gifts, which is generally just candy, and then we'll just have like a little romantic at-home date together, which honestly, I really enjoy. I think it's pretty fun. So that just feels like a nice special day to me. Companies definitely take advantage of the fact that Valentine's Day is a thing and hike up their prices, which I don't like at all. But if you have the opportunity to just have something special at home, I think that you're probably a person who likes Valentine's Day a little bit more than dislikes it, just because, you know, it's just another fun day to do something nice with your significant other. And even when I've been single on Valentine's Day, I've enjoyed it just because I like doing Valentine's Day manicures. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I like it, and I don't really do anything crazy for it, but we're probably just gonna have a little date at home and maybe watch a movie. But if anybody has any thoughts on Valentine's Day, feel free to let me know in the comments. If you're doing anything special, if you absolutely hate it, if there's any particular candies that you highly recommend grabbing on the day after Valentine's Day, leave it all in the comments. We can chat about it. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye.